Welcome to Road Lines with the B.R.O.A.D. Babe, Writing Out a Dream. This show is sponsored by WritersClaw.com, NailMail.com, and CoolRiderGear.com. Now let's get this show revved up. Take it away, Ursula.
Thank you so much, Brother Todd. Peace, hugs, and pipes that rumble, people.
I am very pleased that we have some more participants here in this amputee motorcyclist project that I've got going. Mr. Dave Bledsoe is joining us, and also his lovely wife is joining us as well. She's been with him during this whole thing pretty much. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, we've been together for 11 years, and we're engaged at the time of the accident. So.
Excellent. Okay, well, I'm very glad to have you with us, Becca. And Dave, if you would kind of kick us off and tell us, like what state are you in, and can you tell us when this amputation occurred and the degree of your amputation?
Yeah, I live in Missouri, central Missouri, and the amputation occurred in 2011. It was actually early in the morning, November 3rd, 2011. I had an accident. Motorcycle hit the deer, and I am a lower right leg amputee, below the knee.
Okay, below the knee. All right, so you're the opposite of me then. All right, and now you said the deer got the best of you. Can you explain to us a little bit about how this happens? Because we always hear about motorcycle versus deer and or other critters, and sometimes they are very tragic accidents. Sometimes you get out of them like you did, missing a part or two, and sometimes there's not much to it. Can you give us a little scoop on that, how that happens?
Sure. We were on our way home. We were still heavily involved in the honor flight escort, the Central Missouri Honor Flight, and we were on our way home from that. Like I said, it's about 2:30 in the morning, and maybe a mile and a half from home, just topped a hill, and a deer jumped out of a ditch, still in midair, and we hit it broadside. Tore back off the back of the bike, ripped her helmet off, and she had some really bad skull fractures and traumatic brain injury from that. And I went down with the bike, and it crushed my right leg when it went down on me. And it was February of the following year, a few months later, that ended up having the amputation itself. They tried several surgeries to save the leg first, and finally said take it off. It wasn't going to work.
Yeah, I've heard that story several times as well, and now you had to wait about, 2.5, 3 months, I guess that puts that.
Right.
Yeah, I had similar option where they could do these surgeries, try to piece the puzzle back together, blah, 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 would still have, floppy foot and tissue damage and what have you. So I was, I guess, if you could say fortunate, to have that option right out of the gate. But I have heard, other people say, well, we tried to put it back together and it didn't work out.
They didn't even give me an option for the amputation initially. They just always said, we're going to operate and we're going to get it fixed and get you healed. And I said, by the time February came around, the pain was so bad. And I asked my doctor finally for, what's my prognosis 5 years down the road. He said, well, you might be able to stand up to go to the bathroom.
Oh my!
That's not going to work.
No, that's unacceptable.
Yeah. I asked him. I said, if I get it amputated, what can I do then? And he had a big old grin on his face. He said, "You amputate, you can do anything you want."
There you go. Now, you just made an interesting statement, and this is a little piece of why I wanted to do this particular project. Is that I get asked by my friends and family, as well as the social media people that follow me. I get asked things about, actually, I shouldn't even say I get asked things. I have been given the encouragement that I could do anything I want. But what people don't always understand is the durable medical equipment you get is really what's going to make or break what you can or cannot do. Would you agree with that one particular statement?
100%, I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And what
if
people
you don't have the proper equipment, you're not going to be able to fulfill your potential.
Right, absolutely. And further to that, getting the proper equipment is going to cost money somewhere. Unless you're fortunate to have some type of coverage or something that really pays for these prosthetics, you know, year after year, however many you need in your existing remaining life, you know, we still have to pay our portion come insurance time, you know, whether it's your cap or your co-pays or all of these things. So this will cost us something forever, yeah?
Right. And you know, a lot of insurance companies, they won't agree to pay for the top of the line Cadillac models, if you will. That, you know, a lot of them, I even had one tell me that, well, you know, at least you have a leg and you're able to walk, so what more do you want?
Exactly. Yeah. When I was researching insurances, because I pay for my own insurance, I am self-employed, I found it unbelievable that certain insurances would only cover durable medical equipment if you lost your limb due to type 2 diabetes. I thought, how bizarre is that? You could lose a limb a million different ways. And then some of them even went so far as to say these are luxury items and they don't cover them, period, because you could still exist and live and do certain types of jobs from a wheelchair. And I just find that just unbelievable. The system makes you stay crippled in some cases. And that durable medical equipment is a lot of what people don't understand out there. And you use words like socket and liner and evac system and things like that. And social media followers are like, what does that mean? You know, so we had to learn, didn't we? We had to learn what all that stuff is about. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a crash course for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Becca, let me skip over to you here for a second. Since you were involved in this accident and were also injured, I know you got to keep all your parts, but, you know, traumatic brain injury, that's pretty substantial stuff. What kind of recovery did you go through with that?
I don't really remember a lot. I know that I went to rehab for several weeks after I got out of the hospital, and most of what I know is what my family and friends have told me.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I first got home from rest, it was really hard because I didn't have depth perception because I had damaged a nerve, my optical nerve. So I had to wear an eye patch for several months so that I could see without like 20 vision. It was like trying to see through a starburst.
Ooh, okay.
I didn't wear a patch. Yeah, and no depth perception. I was dizzy a lot, would fall, and that was a struggle.
Wow.
And then as I was getting better, then I would start realizing what I was missing, how I was before, and that was hard to not have your memory.
What do you mean by what you were missing? Like pieces of recollection or functionality or brain power? What do you mean?
Both. Because the depth perception was off, it would take me a while to get things done, and I'm not a patient person. And before, I would just, you know, reach out and do something and have it done. And I would have to stop and think about how am I going to make my hand do this?
Wow.
So, yeah.
So both of you really were going through quite a lot of recovery, a lot of understanding, a lot of learning, kind of all at the same time, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness gracious. Well, kudos to you guys. Now, you said you were engaged at the time of this crash, and that was November 2011. When, did I say that right? 2011, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
When did y'all end up getting married?
Just this last summer, August 30th.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Excellent. Well, congratulations on that. That's awesome. I think, and I would like your perspective on this, but when y'all went through this crazy, screwed up tragedy together, what did that add to the bonds that you already had? And either one of you can answer. You could both take a turn, however you feel.
I couldn't have done it without her. There's no way.
Yeah.
Never would have made it.
I think we fed on each other's weaknesses.
Okay. I hope that means to build up the strength.
It did, because, you know, if he would get down, I would, you know, bring him right back up. Or if I go to do something that I wasn't supposed to do, he would stop me, and, you know, we helped each other grow and get over this. We still do today.
Right, right. And I know, being an amputee, I kind of can relate to some of the daily stuff that Dave probably has to go through. I mean, you got to get up every morning and put that limb on in order to, you know, walk about the rest of your day. And I know Dave is back to work. Is that full-time, Dave, you're working?
Yes.
Yes,
yeah. I'm back
so
to work full-time.
Yeah. So I kind of get the daily part of it. Now, I have no clue as to what traumatic brain injury does, how long it takes to get over it, other than what I've heard from one friend of mine in Illinois hit on a motorcycle who is still, after 2 years, recovering from this traumatic brain. And it sounds like, Becka, you got a little bit more recovery under your belt than he does. But it seems to me that perhaps, and you can tell me your take on this, perhaps going through something like that together, you each know exactly what's affecting the other person, and you kind of get it, so to speak. I mean, you know, Becca's not missing a limb, and Dave doesn't have, you know, memory issues or depth perception issues, but would it be accurate to say that you both know that there are some sucky days, and you just get through it together because you know the other person understands those sucky days?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's hard sometimes.
We were both there that night, laying in the middle of the highway. You know, and we get that.
Goodness gracious. Well, y'all are the first ones that were a couple that had an incident together that, you know, led into this project that I'm doing for motorcycle amputees. So y'all have a very unique story, and I'm really glad that you're sharing it with me. Now, Dave, being a motorcycle amputee, one of the things I want to find out is, how long did it take you, first of all, until you were on a prosthetic? And then from there, how long did it take you until you were back on your bike?
Well, when I woke up the morning after the accident, or the afternoon after, I don't remember, I was out for several hours after the first initial surgery and stuff. I was bound and determined that regardless of what happened, I was getting back on a motorcycle. And like I said, it was February before they finally, we decided to do the amputation. I got my first prosthetic the 1st of May. I went through a week of rehab, learned how to, you know, gait training and how to fall down right, how to get back up, and everything else after I received my first prosthetic. And it was, I'm going to say, 2 or 3 weeks after that, we went out and bought another motorcycle.
Goodness. You end up buying.
I've got a 90 cubic inch, a C90 Suzuki Boulevard.
Nice. That's the one in the pictures you sent me, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent. Now, what?
It took about 15 or 20 minutes to get out of the parking lot that day.
Really?
I sat there, and, you know, if I saw a car a mile down the road, it's like, maybe I just wait for them to go by first.
Yep, I did the same. Yeah. I hear you. Yep.
But it wasn't a mile into the ride that it was like, yeah, this is absolutely the right choice.
I'm back. Yep. I got this. Yeah. Now, how were there modifications to it initially, or were you able to operate the rear brake on your own, balance?
Yeah.
What kind of issues did you have, both mental and physical?
No physical modifications at all to the bike.
Okay.
I was determined that if at all possible, I would modify how I worked.
Yep.
So I wouldn't have to do any modifications to any vehicle that I got, whether it was our car or the motorcycle, whatever. I wanted to be able, you know, to get in and drive a car with no modifications, ride the bike with no mods. So
right.
Now I did look specifically at a motorcycle with floorboards instead of pegs. I figured that would be easier. And it, where the brake's located, its rear brake it's high enough and broad enough that I don't have any problems at all using it with my prosthetic. So
cool.
I did kind of keep that in mind, but this way I didn't have to modify anything.
Now I'm curious. I'm left leg, so that's my shifter leg. I'm curious with the braking leg, and this also makes me curious now about an automobile. I didn't think about this until right this second. When you apply pressure for your brake on your bike, or say the accelerator and the brake in your automobile, did it take you a while to learn how to apply the right pressure?
Oh, sure. It was definitely a learning curve involved because, my entire adult life has always been with the ankle.
Yeah.
Using that. And, well, I don't have an ankle anymore. It's made out of titanium now, and carbon fiber. But, there was definitely a learning curve involved. But it came about pretty quick. And I actually started driving a vehicle immediately after the amputation. I, didn't even ask the doctors. I just jumped in and threw my right leg on the console and drove with my left.
Oh, really? See, even that would kind of freak me out. I think even if I, did the opposite like that, because, if you're not ambidextrous naturally, it's like, oh my gosh, am I going to stomp the gas or the brake or not apply enough pressure to the gas or the brake? That must be kind of funky to try to get used to.
It helps to have pretty empty rural roads to practice on.
Yeah, it was no damn deer.
Yeah.
Gracious. Well, that's cool. You didn't have to really do any mods, and I didn't really have to do too much. I mean, $5 and 10 minutes of time. I just extended the toe portion of the shifter, and that's all I really had to do myself. But, I don't know about you, but I have to, in particular, because, our bikes lean left, so when we park, we typically, you got to push up. So the left side for me is a little bit weaker. But do you find, when you're coming to a stop or, say, some gravel or an inclined parking space or something, do you find that you had to, I guess, maybe think a little harder about where you wanted to park or hey, there's gravel there, I got to be careful? Because, like you said, you don't have an ankle, so we don't make full contact with the ground.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, definitely a little more concentration, something like that's involved. I really try to park where I don't have to push the bike backwards into a parking spot uphill, because that's a little difficult. You said it's a little weaker, and it makes it a little harder. But yeah, so you just try to pay a little bit more attention to things that other people just kind of take for granted.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And that's why we're doing this, is just to kind of enlighten people. Folks think, sometimes I think people believe that, oh, okay, great, you got a prosthetic, now let's go rule the world. But even, even with a moderately decent leg, you've still got to figure out other ways to do things. Like you said, no ankle. And you may or may not have full bend in the knee, and you've got this heavy prosthetic that weighs more than the amount of leg you lost. So there's a lot of compensating and doing things differently. I'm curious because you're the right leg and I'm the left leg. Do you have, and maybe I should first of all ask, what kind of foot do you have? Because I'm curious if you have any flexion issues with uneven ground, walking uphill, things like that. What kind of foot do you have, and what things do you experience with the type of equipment you have?
Right now I've got an extremely stiff foot. It's a Renegade AT.
Yeah.
Very, very stiff. Those familiar with prosthetic feet will understand that just by the name. So it doesn't have a lot of give until you put a lot of pressure on it.
Right.
It takes almost 100 pounds or better to get it to flex.
Wowza, yeah. And that's definitely not something that, and you don't get that kind of flex, in a normal step, say walking up a hill or something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Now, how many, other than your initial test socket and leg, how many actual finished products have you worn so far?
Since 2011, my leg is cranky. It likes to change quite a bit. I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sockets.
Goodness
and
gracious.
3 separate feet until we found one that I was happy with.
Wow, okay. And are you happy with the Renegade that you have now?
I am happy with the Renegade, but I'm actually in the process, just waiting. It's on order at the moment. I'm going to be trying the Rush, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, cool. That's where I was leading to.
Yeah, I just used it for about an hour or so at the process office a few months ago, and the feedback I got on it was just incredible. The spring in your step and everything. It's like, wow. So I'm really looking forward to getting that.
That's where I wanted to lead you into, because I get to pick up my next leg on Thursday, and I got the Rush foot. I don't know the model that I have, but kind of like what you said, I practiced on it for an hour after he did all the tweaks and the this and the that. I walked on it for about an hour last Monday, and I tell you what, it's amazing difference. I mean, I almost feel as if I kind of have toes.
It's almost like a springboard.
yeah, it's got give to it. And you know what he had me do? He had me step on like some uneven surface, and people don't always understand when I try to explain this, and I don't know if I explain it right, but maybe Dave's got another way to explain it. But for us, when you step on, let's say there is an errant rock or an errant stick somewhere, if you don't see it and avoid it or know it's coming, you step on that one item, or let's say Legos in the living room or something like this. When you step on that small item, there is nothing to give way to that thing. And so it sends a shock up the leg, and it hurts.
Yeah, and it will, instead of like your natural foot just adjusting to it, your ankle rolling a little bit, it'll throw your whole leg out of whack.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And if you're not really careful, I've been close to this, but very fortunate because I got a lot of hardware in my knee. If you're not really careful, you can actually twist your knee out of joint.
Yes.
And that would not be good, especially with all the other issues we already have. So I think we both are probably going to really enjoy that Rush foot. This is the one I'm wearing right now is really only my second leg. So the one I get Thursday will be my third, and I'm about 19 months out. So it's another thing that I've tried to explain to people is the atrophy, and you just keep losing more and more tissue in the part of the limb that you're not using anymore. I mean, you really don't have a cause to use what little calf muscle we had left, you know? And so it just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks away, and sooner or later we'll just have this flabby skin and a bone.
Yep. And then I had a revision surgery to remove an neuroma a little over a year ago, and it completely, while the doctor was in there doing that, he decided to reshape the end of the limb where he had did the initial amputation, get rid of some scar tissue and stuff, and it changed the entire shape of my leg.
Yeah, and therefore you need a new prosthetic.
Yep.
Yeah, because the socket doesn't fit. Now, the nice thing, technology being on our side, is that almost all of these prosthetic companies now are doing what really is called a custom socket, and a lot of them even do custom liners, which means it is fitted exactly to the shape of each person's limb. You know, you might have 6 inches, I might have 8 inches, above the knee, below the knee. My knee is shaped so goofy funny from all the hardware, it doesn't look like a regular knee. So we're lucky that technology makes it just that custom. And if you get the proper leg person helping you, there's no reason that even a modest leg can't give you maximum, functionality to live a fairly normal life like we used to live. Would you agree with that, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. The thing that impresses me the most when I see all these YouTube videos and such of these amputees that have gone out and they're doing Ironman competitions and stuff like that, running and jumping and climbing, and it's just that I know what I go through on a daily basis with my leg, and it's like, wow, that's just completely amazing.
Right. Massive determination coupled with amazing technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, me, you, and a great many of the people I've interviewed, we've got massive determination to get back into life, but we're average Joes, We're not Olympic athletes or, celebrities or whatever with, dollars falling out of our pockets to go and get these very, very best equipment.
That's for sure.
And this, yeah, absolutely. And, people don't understand sometimes. They think it's funny. I say, you come spend a day with me and you see what I go through. I put my leg up periodically throughout the day. Of course, I'm not as far out as you are. I don't know that I could, do what I used to do for a living for a straight 8 hours a day because I have to get up and move around every hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. But for folks to get back into full-time employment, riding their motorcycles or climbing, whatever that passion is, there's a great deal of determination that's required. It's just not, hey, let's go get a prosthetic and life is good again. It takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, I used to be an EMT, worked in an ambulance, and today the whole idea of climbing down into a ditch to work on a motor vehicle crash or something, I don't think I could really do it at this moment with where I'm at the moment with my leg.
Right.
I hope to one day be there again, but I just don't quite think I would be an asset to any EMS service at the moment.
Sure, we're a little slower than we used to be, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and not nearly as nimble. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, Becka, from your perspective, living with an amputee, and obviously you know what regular people with limbs go through. What are some of the things that you have taken on a greater respect for, perhaps, is the way I want to say this, as far as daily functionality? What might you tell folks about living every day with an amputee?
Oh, my goodness. That's a good thing I started out with a brain injury. No, you have to be there for them, and to watch them go through their struggles and to watch their determination, it's inspiring, and I just really don't know how to describe it.
It kind of makes you think twice. I mean, even a traumatic brain injury, it seems to me that you still had a great amount of brain function. So you were able to see what this man was going through, but you knew.
Oh, absolutely.
You knew come nighttime, he's got to take that prosthetic off. Now he's got to use crutches. He's got to pee at 2 a.m. Or, maybe if he sat in the lazy boy to take a rest and watch his favorite show on Saturday without the prosthetic on, well, either he's got to crutch it somewhere or he puts the leg back on, which is, I'm getting it down to kind of like a pit crew here where I could get the leg on in a matter of 15, 20 seconds. But, it's a process.
You're faster than I am.
It definitely lets you have a greater respect for them, and you realize what you take for granted when you do have all your limbs.
Yeah.
And I think that it helps you appreciate your life a little more.
Sure, yeah, and the ease of using those limbs, people just take for granted that they can get up and go pee at 2 a.m. That's the one thing, and I harp on this all the time, that is the one thing that bugs me continuously in everyday life, is getting up to go tinkle in the middle of the night. That's a daily thing that bugs me. I know that sounds goofy, but
I always make it wait until the very last minute, it seems like, 'cause it's like, is it really worth me doing this at the moment?
Yeah.
Do I really want to grab the crutches and hobble in there? I'll just put it off.
Yes, exactly. I hear you. And people are going to think we're silly, but it's the truth. It's like, oh, man, I was comfy. Now I got to get those damn cold crutches up under my arm. Yep. And, I don't know, I don't think you were my Facebook friend when this happened, because this was a little bit before the project, but I have to laugh at it. but I also have some spinal nerve damage, and so, like, even my good leg will fall asleep from time to time if I sit for too long. Well, stupid me, you know, I'm on my phone, I'm going tinkle in the bathroom, and I'm checking my Facebook and my email from my phone, and I sat there a little too long. I tried to get up, and boom, I went straight down because my good leg fell asleep, and I had no choice but to laugh at myself.
Oh, you sit there and think, oh, I'm kind of like a weeble wobble. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Now, people have told me that this happens. I haven't done it yet, but I'm curious. And you're the first person I'm asking this in these various interviews. Have you ever gotten up at night or from a nap or whatever and tried to walk and forgot you were missing a leg and, like, gone down?
I did that one time.
Really?
One time, and it scared me to death. I didn't go all the way to the floor, caught myself on the dresser.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know what I was doing. I didn't wake up. I was laying in bed, got my leg on, and I was like, oh, I need to go in there and grab that, and I just swung my leg out and stood up and went to take a step. I was like, oh, shit, no leg.
Yep, no leg. Yeah, I haven't done it yet, but there was this lady, I don't even remember who she was now. It was a Facebook person. Way, way, way back during the early part of my recovery, she said, Ursula, I'm going to tell you right now. She goes, one of these days, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're going to wake up and start to walk, and you're going to forget you don't have a leg. Yep. And I haven't done it yet, but I'm sure my day
and that's what I was told. Everybody says it's not if you do it, it's when you do it.
Yeah, that's kind of like what a motorcyclist say. It's not a matter of if you're going to drop the bike, it's when. Because no matter what, every motorcyclist drops it for one reason or another. You know, something goofy, slick, something, stupidity. It just happens. Motorcycles fall over, period.
Yep.
Yeah, very similar kind of deal. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the day, but I just thought I would ask that because that falling down story reminded me. So now,
just keep your sense of humor.
Yeah, right? And I tend to think, and, you know, maybe this lady that told me that kind of helped me as a subliminal message, because when I do wake up from a nap or from my nighttime sleep, I kind of think for a minute before I try to get out of the bed. I make sure I'm awake and cognizant. I don't just pounce right out of the bed. So maybe she planted a good seed that'll save my rear end from taking a nose
Hopefully
dive.
So. Hopefully so.
Right? And now let me ask you this one, too, since we're talking about taking dives. Have you dropped the motorcycle due to the leg at any point?
I have not. Not yet.
Really? Cool.
I had one time in a gravel parking lot that was a close call and scared me, but I did not drop it. Managed to save it.
Very cool. Good. I had a scary incident. I borrowed a Sportster from a girlfriend back in Chicago before I bought the Heritage. I was in the market at the time, and I was at the stop sign. And, you know, when you pull up next to your buddy at the stoplight, you know, you talk to your buddy over there, hey, blah, blah, stoplight changes, and you go on. This huge gust of wind hit from my right side and pushed me left, which would have pushed me into my buddy. And my left leg with the prosthetic started to slide out from under me. And, oh, my gosh, you talk about true knee-jerk reaction. I mean, that pun is totally intended. Thank the Lord I was able to kind of jerk my leg back and put more pressure against it. Because I was just standing there balancing the bike like we normally did. I wasn't applying any more or less pressure to one leg than the other. So that kind of scared the bejesus out of me on that one.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened to me. I was, like I said, I was on a gravel lot, and when I put my foot down, and the gravel underneath my foot slid out, and I was starting to get spread-eagled for a second.
Yeah. And the thing, since you're talking about your foot sliding out from under you, and I've tried to explain this in some of my writings. When we don't have the ankle, and Dave, you alluded to this earlier, without that ankle, the entire bottom of our foot does not make contact with the ground. So we basically are pushing with just the heel. And Dave, you might be familiar with Roger Chan because he's in some of our other amputee groups on Facebook. but he explained it quite well to the listeners when I interviewed him. But I try to explain to people, if you were to try to put, let's say, a quarter-inch or a half-inch piece of plywood in the sole of your shoe and walk with no flexibility in your foot, you know, and maybe let's even take it a step further and ace up your ankle so you can't bend your ankle. See how much of your foot really touches the ground and how much connection you have or lack thereof. And you can't push with full force.
Yeah, exactly. Well, just sitting here talking to you, I'm sitting, and my left foot's flat on the floor. My right foot is only the heel.
Yep. Yeah, cockeyed, kind of sticking up. Yeah, yep. Absolutely. And that's, again, another reason why we're trying to do this project is to let people see some of the, or to hear, in this case, some of the weird things that you don't necessarily think about. I mean, you know, people are always courteous to me because they see I'm missing a leg, but they don't necessarily think about the everyday functionality.
You got better friends than I do then. I catch hell for my leg all the time.
Take your leg off and beat them over the head. Make them nice.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they keep threatening to take it and run away from me.
Oh, you know, that's not funny because when I was traveling last year, when I would go to a campground shower, I don't know why I had this thought one day, but I was in the ladies' handicap stall and I had taken my prosthetic off and it was leaning kind of towards the door. And I heard a bunch of young ladies come in. You know, they sounded like older kids, maybe preteen to early teen. And they're just hooping it up and hollering like girls will do, you know. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, it would really suck if some smart-ass little teenager stole my leg from up under the door.
Oh, man.
You know, kids being silly or whatever, you know. And so I started keeping my leg closer to me and away from the door in the campground showers when I traveled. You just don't know.
That would suck.
Yeah, would really right? Suck. And, you know, we have good attitudes. I mean, most of us and y'all that I have found on social media, most folks have a pretty decent sense of humor about, you know, the amputation, about life in general. And I think motorcyclists in general have a pretty decent funny bone. I haven't met too many stale bikers in my time, you know, but you have to kind of have that smile in your back pocket and you kind of be able to grin and bear it and move on, you know. Sometimes it sucks, but you got to keep going, right, Dave?
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of my buddies, their big thing is one of these days they want to be able to get me drunk enough they can get my leg away from me and then fill it with beer and pass it around a campfire.
Oh, Lord, we were just talking about this the other night at a motorcycle club. That is just not right. Well, you know, what the heck, Dave? If they are willing to cart you around, just give them one of your old legs, you know?
Yeah.
Why not? Half the cup. That would be hilarious. Just not the good one. Not the good one with the rush foot. Don't do that one. Use an old. Yeah. So now, before we kind of wrap up a little bit, I want to take a serious note. You guys have really made me giggle, but I want to kind of take a serious note from the perspective of a spouse of an amputee. You know, clearly you don't want to baby the snot out of them all the time, but you
I know.
have to help them. What would you tell folks if there was some kind of a message, your own personal message that you would tell folks that want to understand or be a little bit more empathetic to amputees? What would you tell folks?
Get to know them, their moods, their personalities, because you can tell, like I can tell with Dave when he needs to just buck up and do it himself, or if it's a day that he really does just need a little bit of extra help.
Right.
You know, you can tell by the way they carry themselves, the look on their face, how they're acting, you know. And you don't want to coddle them.
Right.
But,
absolutely.
And you want them to be independent. I mean, they have to be independent to carry on.
Sure.
You know, you just got to get to know their moods and how they react.
Right. And now, would you say that applies also to having the perception of when you know that their limb is really seriously in pain, or if it's just a little bit of pain and they're whining a little bit? Or are you able to tell when Dave's got the serious day of pain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can tell with Dave.
Yeah, that's nice that you have that ability to have somebody to help Dave, because, you know, not all of us have that. And when I whine and piss and moan, it's to my dogs, you know, and there's not a darn thing they can do about it. Sometimes I feel as if, you know, there might be a task I want to accomplish, but I don't have somebody, you know, that will help me accomplish that task. So I have to figure out some other way of doing it, or I have to put it off until I can get a visitor or a friend or something to help me with that task. Are there, now, I'm not sure, and I don't mean anything disrespectful by this, I'm not sure if maybe being a guy has a different perspective on what kind of help you need. I mean, I've always been a very independent woman. I mean, for goodness sakes, I traveled the country alone for a long time, but sometimes we just need help. Did you find that it was very difficult as a man and as an amputee to ask for that help?
Independence is a blessing and a curse. It's both. You know, having that drive and everything. It's, yeah, I want to do this, and that's what got me up, got me back on the bike, got me, you know, back into my life. But then there's times when I got so aggravated with myself because I wasn't able to do something the way I thought I should be able to, and that would just make things worse. I would just get mad at myself so much that it just, you know, it just ruined everything.
Right. I do that too. I get angry at myself. You know, I fuss at myself. You should be able to do this. Figure out another way. And even if sometimes I simply cannot figure out another way, I just don't have the strength or the reach or something, whatever. I mean, it doesn't happen all that often now, but sometimes I just couldn't do something, and it would just infuriate me beyond belief. So, yeah, I get that. And being determined people, and I think, again, a little something that goes with motorcycling, men or women, either one that decide to ride these machines, they are a certain part crazy and a certain part extremely determined in and of that particular passion.
Absolutely.
So I think we have that in us already based on this passion we chose. And then to have something like this happen to us, and for us to have even further determination to get back into that passion and to not give it up and say, oh, screw it, there's a lot more deer out there. I'm too afraid of these deer. I don't want to do this again. You know, so to get back into it, did you find that you had some mental reservations about riding again? And I don't mean, I know you told us you were determined to ride again, but mental reservations, by that I mean, you know, each time you went riding, were you more aware, hyper aware? Did you talk to yourself about things?
Yeah, I say one of my biggest things has been night riding. Of course, you know, it's happening in the middle of the night, and that's whenever all the wildlife are a lot more active, it seems like.
Yeah.
When we first got back into riding and everything, like I said, we're still really big into the honor flight escort and everything. One of our, I think it was the very first honor flight escort we went back to on the motorcycle. We left the house just at sunset, and as we were going up this 2-lane blacktop highway towards the interstate, one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen stepped right up almost onto the white line. And yeah, that is a pucker moment for sure.
Yeah. Were you ESPing him? Don't move.
I was. Thankfully, Becca she had her headphones in, and she was kind of zoned out and didn't see it at all. So I'm thankful for that.
Would that have freaked you right the heck out, Becca?
Oh, yes. In fact, when I do ride now, I have to have headphones and have the music going, and it helps calm me down. And I love to ride, but I get nervous because I see eyes everywhere now.
Right. And, it's interesting that you say you see the eyes everywhere now. That's kind of, would you say that is a post-traumatic impression that has been left upon you?
Yes, I do have post-traumatic stress from the accident, and that is one of the things.
Yeah, I totally get that because I still have certain flashbacks and certain things on the bike will still set me off and what have you. It's getting better each time I ride. I talk to myself about certain things. Not every single car is going to kill you, So I totally get that. And, that touches on something else that this particular series, I could make a whole new series about PTSD, but clearly I'm trying to focus as best I can. But sometimes folks will question when I talk about PTSD and having a motorcycle crash. People mistakenly think that this is only something that our soldiers that have seen war and death and things like this go through, and that is not true. PTSD can affect anybody that has had some kind of very traumatic life experience that has severely impacted their psyche, I guess you could say. And, I mean, clearly you have bucked up, you've toughed it out, you've gotten back on the bike, which leads me to something else that I talked about years ago in this thing. I used to have Thinking Thursday on this motorcycle group I created, and I liked for the women passengers to give their perspective on riding because, and Dave, you and Becca may have some of this in your history together, but it seems that passengers, and I don't have passengers that often, but it seems that the lady passengers often have the ability to see even more than we do or even different things than we do. We might be scanning our horizon. We may be looking at this or that, worrying about our maneuvering of the motorcycle. But yet the passenger might be back there and say, hey, did you just see that deer? Or, hey, watch out for that guy. He doesn't look like he's, slowing down for this oncoming intersection. Do you find, Becca, that you can pick up on some of these things that you're able to share as a passenger with Dave?
I don't think so. I mean, I might once or twice have seen something he hasn't, but he's always been a very cautious driver.
Right. Okay.
And he's always, he'll see it before I will, mostly.
Right.
I'm pretty hypervigilant whenever it comes to that.
Well, that's always good. That goes without saying. And like for me, I don't often have a passenger, and if I do, it's not usually for, an extended period of time. But I've heard many men talk about their ladies being on the back, oh, God, my wife saw such and such, and I didn't even see it, or whatever the case may be. So I think that there's a lot to be said for, I will call them full-time passengers. It takes a lot to trust your life to the person driving that machine. And so, Becca, I give you good kudos for getting back on that machine, same as Dave did. So I'm very proud of you for that, girlfriend.
It's just another chapter in our life. We just go on.
Yep, I hear you. And it's cool that y'all share that mutual passion and that both people said, you know what, this was a goofy, stupid accident. Let's get on with it and keep living what we like to do. And obviously, you are former military. I learned that after your pictures and your story you sent to me, Dave. So thank you very much for your service. Thank you very much for helping with Honor Flight. A lot of my buddies back home do that in Chicago. Thank you so much.
That's one of the best things we've ever been involved in, and, wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent. And, I think it's just a brotherhood helping a brotherhood. That's the way I look at it. My dad was 30 years U.S. Navy, and so service members have a special place in my heart. I never served myself, but I have kind of that background of being a military brat for so long that you know what those families go through. And so there's
absolutely.
Yeah, there's a special place for folks that do what you're doing, Honor Flight, and welcome.
Love the Honor Flight. You know, I'm a ride captain of the Patriot Guard Riders, and just anything to honor our vets.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
Live for it.
Now, Dave and Becca, I don't know, are you a Facebook friend of mine, Becca, or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay, cool. I hope you will friend me. And now, I don't know, Dave, maybe we could talk about this offline some other time, but did you see that stocks program that myself and a couple of Facebook ladies started?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah. We're hoping to collect, Becca, since you're not my Facebook friend, Becca, I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then this will also serve to share with the people that will listen to our interview. But the SOX program, and it's SOX, it stands for SOX Orphans Exchange, and it started kind of goofy. My girlfriend gave me an odd sock. It was this, to-the-knee black sock with all these multi-stripes, some goofy, silly sock. But one of them was missing, so she said, hey, I'll give the other one to Ursula, So I took a picture, put it on Facebook, and it was just supposed to be a silly little Facebook post joke type of deal. But from that was born this socks exchange where people can donate their, good condition, odd socks, and we'll send them out to veterans' homes, children's homes, wherever amputees might benefit from these odd socks and slippers. So, I think that's really cool. And with what you do with the Honor Guard and Patriot Guard and all of this, Honor Flight and Patriot Guard, there might be an opportunity where, we might be able to help some amputees, in your community in Missouri there. So keep that in mind and tell your friends to save their odd socks for us.
I'll do that. That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, your dog will eat a slipper or the dryer will eat a sock. There's no reason to waste the other good one.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, Becca and Dave, I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this. I'm so glad I found you, Dave, on Facebook, and I'm really touched that you would spend the time to help me with this project so that collectively we can kind of share a little bit more about what we go through, not just our vigilance to get back to a passion we love, but the daily ins and outs and the medical forever that is the amputee life. So thank you both, Becca and Dave, for being with me. Much appreciated.
And real quick, I'd just like to give a quick shout-out to two special groups that were an enormous support base for us during all this. One is our motorcycle group that we belong to, the Central Missouri Riders. They were at the hospital with us every single day and followed us home, and they just their love and support was incredible. They held poker runs and auctions and everything else to help raise money for us after the accident. You couldn't ask for a better group of people than they were.
I hear you.
Absolutely amazing. I said the biggest hearts are wrapped in leather.
Yes, amen. I love that
true.
phrase. I love that. I might have to steal that, Dave. And what's the other group, honey?
The other group is Veterans United Foundation. They're the charitable arm of Veterans United mortgage loans. They do, VA loans for homes.
Okay.
They for years used to donate to Red Cross and different other charities. Well, then they decided a few years back to start their own. And our senior ride captain of the Patriot Guard put me in contact with their director of their foundation, and they were amazing. They come down and they donated money to us, and that we figured that was just going to be the end of it. But no, once you got to know them, you were part of their family, and they constantly they were sending us, take us to ball games, inviting us to different functions they were having. We went to several concerts for helping other wounded warriors and stuff like that, and just an incredible group of people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And it is with help and support of groups like that. Similar stories after my crash, how motorcyclists came out in droves and did things to lift spirits, to raise funds. Motorcyclists, I love what you said about the biggest hearts being wrapped in leather. That's just absolutely spot on and perfect. And now, Dave, if you could just slowly repeat the name of those two organizations so that if people listening want to write these down, could you just state them one more time?
Sure. At anyone in Central Missouri especially, that rides a motorcycle, the Central Missouri Riders. They're on Facebook. It's just a riding group. Get together on weekends and whatever. We do poker runs and just get together for lunch and ride the countryside.
Okay.
Fantastic people. And then Veterans United Foundation.
Okay, Veterans United Foundation. Okay, terrific. Excellent. Good. I'm glad you throw that in there because it is with groups like that. I mean, our friends and our family do help us get along, but, sometimes we need a little bit more encouragement or funds that we just don't know where they're going to come from. And so, absolutely, those types of organizations do help put us back behind bars, so to speak, or whatever the passion might be for any tragedy victim. So thank you for sharing that. Well, I want to wish you both a good evening. It is evening time now that we're recording. And I'm certain that I will see you on Facebook, Dave and Becka. I sure hope you'll be my friend and follow along. And who knows, maybe if we can get this stocks thing to take off, maybe I can use your brain for some information on some local veterans places and children's places and things like this.
Absolutely.
That sounds great. Absolutely.
Thank you.
We're still going to take
both.
you up on the offer of riding down to North Carolina one of these days.
Yeah, buddy, man.
Got some roads down there you can show us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've got a beautiful, beautiful setup down there. I mean, it's just a mobile home trailer, but I tell you what, I am in premium locations, roads that you just shake your head. I don't know what else to do. I'm shaking my head right now. Just gorgeous, Dave. So, yeah, you and Becka, you got some time this summer. You Facebook me, you call me, whatever the case may be. Hey, Ursula, here's our schedule. Where are you going to be? What are we doing? And I'll put you guys up. Absolutely. I love visitors. I live alone, so I get visitors in and out. I get to entertain. I get to ride. I mean, it's awesome. It's the best of both worlds.
Can't beat it.
Terrific. Well, thank you both very much. Mr. and Mrs. Bledsoe, most appreciated.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. You kids have a wonderful evening. God bless you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Before ending this particular episode of the Amped Writer Project, I just want to give another thank you to my family, my friends, social media followers, the folks that have participated in this particular project, and to any of you out there that might just happen upon this series online. Without the support and encouragement of said people, there's no way I'd be where I am today. These people have lifted me up, encouraged me, told me that I could accomplish whatever I wanted. And I did. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, all of you. God bless. I want to wish everybody out there peace, hugs, and whatever makes your soul rumble.
For all things Broad, visit hdbroad.com. Road Lines and the Broad are sponsored by writersclaw.com, nailmail.com, and coolwritergear.com. And remember, the Broad, B.R.O.A.D, Writing Out a Dream, and Peace and Hugs and Pipes That Rumble are trademarked and not available for use or copy.